Hello, Argo kids. Welcome back. Today we're going to finish up Chapter 8 by talking about the Electoral College and the Cabinet. Now, I know that we've already kind of discussed the Electoral College, but it is a complex topic, so I'm going to kind of go over it again with you. All right, so remember, the Electoral College are the people who officially vote for the president and the vice president. The formation is this. Every state gets the same number of electors as they do the number of representatives plus the number of senators they have. So, for instance, Illinois has 18 representatives. They have 2 senators. Therefore, they get 20 electors to officially vote for the president and the vice president. Now, before the 12th Amendment, each elector got 2 votes, and when they add up all the votes, whoever got first place became president, whoever got second place became vice president. But then they realized that was a terrible idea because usually people who ran against each other had very opposing views. That would be like if with the 2016 election, Hillary Clinton would have been President Trump's vice president, and you know how much they love each other. So in 1800, they realized they needed to make a difference, so they made the 12th Amendment. And the electors vote on the president and the vice president separately. Like you put on like a ballot that for instance, President Trump is running for president, Pence is running for vice president, and you vote on them separately. So the Electoral College, it's based on the popular vote. So that happens the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. So in 2020, it's November 3rd. Voters really are voting for their party's electors. So here's how this happened. Whichever candidate gets the plurality of the popular vote in that state, that party gets to choose the state's electors. So I'll give you an example. In 2016, Hillary Clinton won like 60% of the popular vote in Illinois, and President Trump won close to like 40%. Since she won the most votes, her party, the Democrats, in Illinois got to pick all 20 electors to officially vote for Hillary Clinton in December. So they'll find like 20 hardcore Democrats from Illinois that they know are going to vote for Hillary. You don't want to change your vote because that's kind of political suicide. You'll kind of ostracize yourself from the party. So there are 538 total votes in the Electoral College because there are 100 senators, 435 members of the House. So remember, it's your representatives plus your senators. That's 535. And then the other 3 comes from Washington, D.C. Since it's not part of any state, they still get to vote and they have their own electors. It's winner take all. So like I said with the Hillary thing, even though she only won 60% of Illinois, she got 100% of Illinois' electoral votes. Maine and Nebraska do it a little bit differently. They kind of split theirs. So 538 divided by 2 is 269. So you have to have 270 votes in order to win the Electoral College. If no one gets 270 electoral votes, the vote goes to the House of Representatives and each state gets 1 vote. That's happened a few times. The Electoral College vote. So the official vote is the first Monday after the second Wednesday in December. This is in the Constitution, kids. It's kind of funky, but it is what it is. So that means that even though November 3rd, 2020, for instance, in that year, we will most likely know who the president is. It's not official until the first Monday after the second Wednesday when they officially vote. So here's the Electoral College map. This is the one, the numbers stay the same every 10 years. So these are the same numbers in 2020 as well. This just shows how the election results happened with that election. So you can see any state that is blue, that went to President Obama in 2020, and any state where the numbers are red, that went to candidate Mitt Romney, who's now a senator. As you can see, some of the more populated states have bigger numbers, California, Texas, Florida. And if you notice in Texas, in the top right corner, you can kind of see where it says +4. And like in Illinois, you can see where it says -1. What that means is from the previous election or previous census, previous 10 years, every 10 years, we take a census and these numbers change. We lost population in Illinois, so we lost a seat. And Texas gained a lot of population, and they actually gained 4 seats, which means they gained 4 electoral votes. Here's the problem people have with the Electoral College. They say it's winner take all, so like that's not necessarily represented of a state. For instance, with the 2016 election, 40% of Illinois wanted Donald Trump, but Hillary Clinton got all of the votes. And you could say that, in 2000, 50.1% of Florida popular vote voted for George Bush, while like 49.8% voted for Al Gore, but George W. Bush won every single electoral vote in Florida. It's really hard for a third party to have any type of chance. The closest we ever saw was Teddy Roosevelt, and he still didn't win. And then, of course, if the House votes, if it goes to the House, because there's not a majority, there's 1 vote per state. So California has the exact same weight as Wyoming. But so why do we have the Electoral College? Honestly, the Electoral College was formed for 2 reasons. Number one, they didn't necessarily trust the American populace to choose the executive. And we're not a democracy, kids. We're a republic. And that's what people have a hard time understanding, is that we don't necessarily follow a democracy. So they didn't feel like they trust it. But number 2, the Electoral College protects small states because they're important in elections, where if it was a popular vote, large cities would control the election. So I'll talk about that in a second. So some ideas to reform it is to do what Nebraska and Maine do, where each district in a state gets 1 electoral vote, and then the overall state gets 2 electoral votes to basically go along with the number of representatives and the number of senators, but divided. Another one is just a percentage of the popular vote, which would just be, like if 60% of Illinois voted for Clinton and 40% voted for Bush, Clinton would get 60% of the electoral votes, Bush would get 40. Now, here's where I was saying why the Electoral College is good, why it would be bad to get rid of the popular vote, because large cities would control the election. So if you're a candidate and it's just popular vote, you're going to go to the most populated places, and therefore they would just go to large cities. And then that way candidates are going to pander to urban policy versus stuff for rural and suburban areas, which, in elections, in the 2016 elections, some of the most important states were small: Iowa, Wisconsin, New Hampshire, the Carolinas. They aren't that big. Because of the Electoral College, they became important. Large cities aren't controlling things. And when I say, I know that sounds bad, third-party candidates have a good chance. They have a good chance because that could be bad, because usually third parties are further left or further right and not necessarily in the mainstream. All right. Next, we're going to look at who works for the president. So we're going to look at the cabinet. They're a group of advisors to the president that are the head of the executive departments. Today, we have 15 total departments. 14 are headed by secretaries. One's headed by the attorney general. So how do you pick these people? They should be experts in their field. They need to really be not controversial and acceptable to all groups in power. They need to be loyal to the party. They need to be a good administrator. They need to have been a leader in their field. And the president also tries to get them geographically, racially, and gender balanced. Tries to get people of color, tries to get women, and tries to get people from all over the country. Not, for instance, President Trump lives in New York. He knows a lot of New Yorkers, but you don't want to get everybody from New York. You want them from all over the place. So basically, they get an idea of who they want beforehand when they're president-elect, meaning like the person who won the election in November but hasn't taken the oath of office. And yet it's that period in between. They call them the president-elect. And in that period between, that's when they pick their secretaries and the attorney general. And then on inauguration day, Senate has to approve it. So right on or after inauguration day is when they say, okay, I have my choices. Go, and they send them to the Senate for approval. So the role of the cabinet, like what type of role they have, it depends on the president. Stronger presidents pay less attention to their cabinet, like Wilson and FDR didn't as much. What is the modern day cabinet like? Most presidents will definitely use them at first, but then they taper off. Some presidents are closer to some cabinet members than others. Probably the best example of like a cabinet, like probably the most powerful cabinet member in American history would be Bobby Kennedy when he was JFK's attorney general. Not only was he powerful, but he was close to him too. They were brothers, so he was giving him more power and trusted him a lot. All right, that's it for chapter 8. I'll talk to you later.